In this video I'll walk you through the 3 states of battle: neutral, advantage, and disadvantage. Each state transitions from one to the other. Neutral plus to advantage. Advantage minus to neutral. Neutral minus to disadvantage. Disadvantage plus to neutral. Let's watch a duel before we break it down into the neutral game framework.
Ain't no stopping me. Running on empty here. Really? Too easy. Are you serious? Now you've done it. Ain't no stopping me. You're done, bub. Are you serious? You want some of this? Yes, you be serious. Get to me. Are you running on empty here? Are you serious?
Now, let's go through that again as I explain the framework. Neutral is the state where neither player has an advantage. We define advantage by considering all the resources each player has. At the top, we can see the full red health bars and the full blue guard gauges. Next, all skills are available to use. We have companion summon available, and our dodge gauge, as well as our dashes, can be used. I must emphasize that the same applies for our opponent, even if we can't see the information. Everything we do either brings us closer to advantage or disadvantage. Skills have cooldown, which prevents them from being used for a time. Considering cooldown as a resource, we actually trade a skill's effect for cooldown. At this point, I tried to shift my game state to advantage by using a buff that charges ultimate gauge and increases attack. After buffing, my opponent flew. He traded half of his guard gauge for access to his dash and faster movement. I also summon my companion to further grant me buffs, and have an automatic attack when the opponent comes close. Positioning in the battlefield also is a resource to be managed. By this time, I've already taken the center, giving me the option to attack from closer range or run away, as opposed to my opponent, who has no more room to run. At this point, one can say that I'm at neutral plus state, having an advantage in positioning, with multiple buffs active, and having full access to attacks. Conversely, my opponent is in neutral minus. Even if his guard gauge is halved, he has buffs active, full skill access, and dash capability. His choice of attack explains why he did not move to the center. The attack he used makes him invincible and moves him forward. If he moved to the center and then used the skill, it would have moved him to the edge, which would have cornered him. Similarly, I attack with an untargetable skill to try and cancel slower moves. However, his skill took priority because it started faster. Skills have various startup frames, which dictate when they become active from when you press the button. Besides startup, an attack has recovery frames, which is how long it takes after the attack before you can move again. Generally, fast moves with low startup and recovery result in less risk, and are the key to transitioning to more advantageous states. My companion dealt damage during his invincibility frames, so in this instance my opponent is up. My companion is on cooldown now. However, my untargetable attack is still active, and is continuing even beyond his iframes. He can only run or dodge because I am untargetable now, which is a big advantage for me, because it lets me counter only those two actions, moving and dodging. I also still have another untargetable skill, while his single iframe is on cooldown. This, together with my higher shields, places me in advantage. In advantage, I can afford to take more risks, like use melee attacks that might miss. In this next attack, I choose to use my remaining untargetable to press my advantage. I'll use my melee attack after. I'm pausing to highlight my opponent's strategy so far. He's gathering information by just running and defending with his iframes and protective buffs. One could argue that I dropped from advantage to neutral plus at this point, because for a slight trade in HP lost, he has seen all of my moves, while maintaining full dodge gauge versus my one available dodge. Still, because I'm in plus, I commit to my offense and finish my rupture to lacerate combo. Note how I immediately dodged to end my attack, because I only wanted to apply lacerate. The dodge also helps protect my HP in case he counters. Watch how I run and create spacing after. I needed to make space to be out of range from my opponent's attacks, especially since we've noted that my skills are on cooldown. Conveniently, my buff is out of cooldown now. This positioning looks very familiar to the start of the match, doesn't it? In these moments we can review the game state and calibrate our assumptions on the neutral game.
Ain't no stopping me. You're done.
I simply repeat my actions from the first neutral state, because those same actions led me to advantage. Normally I would mix it up to avoid being predictable, but this time I take the risk, because I have not seen my opponent do anything different. I can take advantage that he's being defensive.
Are you serious? You want some of this? As you can
I finished the exact same sequence of moves from before, and you can see that my advantage state remains. My opponent tried to counterattack once, but my advantage allowed me to persist and keep up pressure.
Are you Are you serious?
Let's recap. The neutral game is the battle for control of the game state. Neutral is the initial state where everything is equal. We consider everything that we can use or influence as resources that determine the game state. Manageable resources include health, guard gauge, stamina, skill cooldowns, dodge gauge, and even dash, flight, and our position in the arena. Essentially, all our possible actions in the duel. Attacks have startup, active, and recovery frames. Startup is how fast an attack starts from the button press. Active is how long an attack lasts. Recovery is how long until you can move again after the attack. Startup, active, and recovery frames determine how fast a skill executes. You want to exploit these fast skills especially if they have good damage. Skills that have untargetable and invincible properties are the best in the game. The untargetable and invincible skills with high active frames are especially notable because while they're executing, you're regenerating your other resources. Skills such as Captain America's Spearhead and Wolverine's Evolved Hunter skills count among these. Using low-risk skills is the best way to gain advantage. You can reduce the risk of a skill by using shields or by dodging to gain iframes. Once in advantage, you can afford to take more risks. Risky moves usually have higher startup, such as melee attacks that make you move close before starting. Proper resource management involves moving out of range. Spacing is key to managing neutral. Study your character's unique abilities and find ways to exploit them. Wolverine's Lacerate applies damage over time if used after rupture, with results you can see in purple text above. Characters with many or repeatable untargetables and or fast skills tend to perform best in PvP. They can manage neutral better by exploiting weaknesses and mitigating risks. That's it for this video. I hope it empowers you in creating your own strategies and taking ownership of the results of your duels.